Hi guys, thanks for jumping on today. Paul here, and I have a very special interview guest for us. Sarah Challenor is joining us from Advisor Outsourcing today to talk about everything to do with systems and processes. So if you're a financial advisor, you're thinking about how you can grow your practice and things like systems, processes, and even, yes, that word data is holding you back. Sarah is absolutely the person to help you out today. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for jumping on with us today.
Hi, Paul. How you doing?
Very, very well. Maybe explain better than I did there, just what you guys focus on there in Advisor Outsourcing.
Absolutely. So we're a firm and we are here to help small and medium financial advisory firms just get to grip with their back office software, their technology, their data and their processes. So to try and solve those headaches of what do I need to do? Where do I need to start? How do I fix these things? We help firms, we train them in-house, and we offer fully outsourced solutions as well around all areas to do with data, income and processes.
Now, would it be fair to say that this area, data, income, processes, systems, tends to intimidate people a little bit? You know, it tends to make their brain freeze up a little bit, so to speak. Do you find that a little bit?
I think freeze, frustrate. In a world of modern technology and all these integrations, you will still get a business owner that will say, right, I just want a list of all my clients, AUM, and they'll turn to their team and it will be, well, we can, but, or no, we can't do that. And I think the biggest problem is it freaks everybody out because they don't understand the quality of their data or why it's so difficult. They just want the list.
Well, let me put it to you this way. So I'm an advisor, I'm running a practice, you know, I might have multiple advisors in my practice or whatever it happens to be. Why should I care?
You should care because you want to know what your firm is. What information do you have? That data, that information is the value, 90% of your firm along with your name. So if you want to grow, if you want to sell, all of this is vital to being able to evidence what you have and have a control over it. And the last thing you ever want with such tight regulation is the FCA, your PI insurer, or a client coming back and saying, do you know what? This is wrong, and you incurring a fine or something worse. And overall, what we found is all advisors, their priority is to deliver exceptional client experience. If this isn't right, you can't do that. You've got to have faith in what you're delivering to your clients, and this is how you do it.
And so where, like in your experience, you've had lots of experience obviously dealing with advisors on this, where are the common areas that people tend to go wrong with this?
I think it's difficult, and I don't think it's necessarily they've gone wrong. I think as technology has grown, things have been bolted on, so people have had to find workarounds. A great one is always on PI data. Over the years, I've seen people have to use their systems in different ways to essentially fudge it to get the data they needed, but then it grows and it becomes this unwielding thing because you're trying to understand what is in there already to keep control of it. So it's a case of not maintaining it regularly, not having the processes in place to keep on top of it. And then all of a sudden it becomes a massive mountain for firms. But I don't necessarily think it's anything they've done wrong. It's just as the technology advances, the data just increases in size.
So can we talk about that massive mountain? In my experience of dealing with a lot of advisors, there's lots of people who would have 1, 2, even 3 years of data, and it's just a mess. Like it's just all over the place. They can't keep up with it there, and it's almost to the point that it's kind of weighing heavily on their mind what to do with it. So if you're in that kind of situation, what are you going to do?
First of all, take a deep breath. The amount of firms we speak to and people will ring us up and it's like, I've been told I need to do this, do that. I don't know where to start. What do I do? And it's like, you don't have to do everything at once. It comes back to the age-old business planning on everything. Break it down into small tasks. The first thing is to work out what data is important to you as a firm. What processes are key? Where are your risks as a business? Where could things fall down? And that's essentially what process planning is about, to make sure you've got those overriding systems in place. So what data is important? And then when you're looking at what data is important, how does it currently look for you? Now, in terms of assessing that, there's such a wealth of resources out of there. So if you have internal or yourself that's good at analysing data, and I will say Excel, unfortunately, is still a key one here. Being able to get your data out and use Excel to work out where it's at is pretty fundamental. But there's account managers for the back office software providers, the firms like ourselves, and it's just about taking it step by step. Even if you go back to basics, okay, how many clients have we got? What segments are they in? Or how many have we got that are missing a date of birth or an email address? But not every piece of data is needed. So what do you need to deliver your client journey and do your internal MI and regulatory reporting?
Okay. So in other words, there's ways to go about tidying that up. People shouldn't be freaking out is what you're trying to say. It can be dealt with in a kind of a, how do you eat an elephant? Yeah, one step at a time sort of thing, or one bite at a time. Isn't that what they say? And let's be honest, you run a business as well, Sarah, obviously, so you, I guess, understand the challenges of growing a business and building a business from scratch. So can you tell us a little bit about that and some of the, the ups and downs you've had over the years?
Oh, it's great, isn't it? Because I think the thing I share with most firms is I love doing my day job. And when I started Advisor Outsourcing 5 years ago, it was fantastic. It enabled me to have a work-life balance, but I had to learn so much about so many different areas of the internal operations that you just don't necessarily think of. And they become more and more important as time goes on. And it's also trying to fit those into your day whilst actually doing the work that generates the income. So I think that's something I've definitely experienced as we've grown, being able to pass on that knowledge, being able to record processes ourselves. And like most firms, I'm probably great at telling people what they need to do. And then it comes back to us. And as we prepared to grow and scale up, it was like, okay, well, we really need to work out what's the best way for us to record our processes. And again, it's adapting to the different types of people you have in the business. So what we've learned is some people are great at recording a process on a video. And then we have some people that like reading it. So we actually have a system internally here where when it comes to passing on knowledge, we'll do the video, someone else will type it, and we have different mediums to help train people as well as what's built into our back office systems.
So but, you eat your own dog food, so to speak, then, yeah, in terms
absolutely.
of processes in your system. Yeah, is that how
100%. And it is something that we will come across problems and we're like, okay, let's just stop. Let's just start with a blank piece of paper again. And I think a lot of the problem we find with ourselves and other firms that I talk to is just they look at what they have and then they start to try and pigeon everything in there. And actually, it's just stop for a second, take a step back. There could be a completely different way to do something that you haven't thought about. And it is very difficult. Technology changes so rapidly, especially in the last 9 months. We found that we've changed our back office system. We've changed our processes. We've actually got rid of 3 different pieces of software in place of 1.
Right. So, there's nothing better than getting rid of 3 and going to 1, is there? And has it made your life easier? Has it been more efficient and from a time point of view and from a workflow point of view?
Absolutely now. However, as anybody, especially implementing financial services back office software will tell you, not initially. There was a lot of time and effort and resource and just that extra brain power that had to go in implementing it over a period of 4 to 6 weeks. It was not easy. And again, it's trying to actually do the day job and bring the money in.
Excellent.
But I think what's been quite good for me and what's really helped through this is we do a lot of collaboration. So user groups and talking to people both inside the financial services industry and outside have been fantastic for just saving time and energy and learning new ideas.
Yeah. And what sort of trends, I mean, with that, you obviously talk to a lot of advisors, you kind of have your finger on the pulse, you have a good idea of what's going on. So what sort of trends are you seeing in the marketplace around this? I understand there's a lot more people going directly authorized. Is that right? Are you seeing those sort of trends or what's happening?
Yeah, we are. It's there's quite a few going directly authorized. There's quite a few people I think that have had very bad experiences in their network with the software rollout particularly. And that's maybe prompted them to go directly authorized. We're also seeing a number of firms preparing to sell, which is obviously something that we don't want to see the marketplace contract, but actually the processes and the data, that's where we've seen one of the biggest impacts there as well, because it can have a massive effect on the value of the business. But as people go directly authorized, they make all their plans, they understand they've got the finance, the marketing, the processes, they tend to be on their own at that point. And then all of a sudden they're left with a piece of software that may have some data and may not. And it's, where do I start? What do I do? So we've worked with quite a few firms this year over the last 12 months, just helping them break that down into bite-sized pieces, giving them a project plan to follow. We're very hands-on and just taking them through step by what's important to them and what they need to do first.
There is very much, I suppose, a climate of consolidation happening, though, at the moment, isn't there? There seems to be quite a lot of people in the marketplace almost hoovering up some of the different, good performing practices who are well run and have good processes and systems, funnily enough, So we've definitely seen that within our business as well. It seems to be happening quite a lot. Can you give me an idea, maybe just to sort of help people relate to it? Can you give me maybe just a case study or a success story of a client that you worked with, to give me an idea of maybe what their starting point was and kind of, what way you were able to work them and maybe, how they then sort of progressed through things, just to kind of illustrate the point for people?
I mean, there's been quite a few. There's very targeted success stories. So if you look at the income side of things, we had a firm ring us up. They wanted to grow, but they'd had somebody doing their income reconciliation, so processing all of that money that comes in and not necessarily doing it right and then disappearing. And then when they asked us to assess it, they found out that actually it hadn't been done for just over 12 months. And when it had been done, it had been done incorrectly. And they just sort of looked at it and went, well, if we can't wipe it, what do we do? And I think when you're a firm like that, it's something you're not familiar with and you just want reassurance. We drew a plan up, project plan for those. We managed to fix with a lot of resource, but we fixed it within 4 weeks, all the historical issues. And then we processed 12 months worth of income data and got them back up to date within a 5-month period. And that allows for all reports and so on having to be done, all new checks in place, best practice processes. And then from that point on, they were able to evidence all the information they had financially to be able to prepare that business case to expand and draw up a 3-year plan. So they took on 2 new advisors within that 3-year plan. So it really helped them just knowing their data, knowing their clients. If you can't turn around and know exactly all the income you get for one client or one segment, it's a very difficult position for you.
Yeah, no, I totally hear that. And so with that, what kind of sort of tips or advice would you have for someone who's looking at this, who's thinking, okay, I want to grow my practice, but I kind of need to tidy up my data, my processes, my systems. I need to be smarter about this. I need to get my software sorted out, go from 3 packages to 1 and all that. What sort of tips would you have for them that they could maybe go and look at?
I think it's interesting because also it covers so many different areas. My background was from a financial services firm. I did operations. I then moved onto the software side. So I've seen it from both perspectives. And what I realized is there's almost like this bridge needed to be able to convert the language from software providers to people that actually have to use it and be able to use it well to run their business.
Right.
So I would say, first of all, find out resources. So there are people like myself that will just sit down, have an hour conversation with you, free of charge, really understand where you're at. The key is, what are your business goals for 1 to 3 years? So once you know those, we can then play it back. Okay, are you on target for those? What technology do you have? How are you using that? What's your business structure? How is that working? So it's just about taking it back to the very beginning. And then it's about saying, okay, so here's where I want to get to. What parts of my processes and data do I need to understand? And again, there's myself, there's the back office account managers, and just getting that analysis done so you understand your starting point. If you know where you're getting to, you know where you're starting from, it's really easy to then build that plan in the middle and to get from A to B. So I would definitely say that, and just don't feel that you've got to fill in every field on a box. Is what is that important data? Which bits do you need? And then as you grow, the key thing here is, as you grow, you need to have that reliance on people, that faith. So what processes, workflows, standard documents can you put in place to not stifle their creativity and their natural personalities, but to guide them through your business way of doing things? And I think that's the key. It's, what are the main steps? Where are the risks again? If a certain document has to be sent out on time, that's great. If there has to be key wording, brilliant. We can build all of those parts in. And then the rest is allowing you and the new people you bring into your firm to develop that culture, that personality, how you deal with your clients and why you make an exceptional client journey for them.
Absolutely. And that word culture, I think, is really interesting in relation to this, because people don't talk about culture in terms of systems and processes normally, do they? They talk about the culture in terms of how you deal with staff and, sort of how you train people and how you bring them on. For you, it is everything around systems, processes and data very much a cultural aspect within the actual business itself?
I think it's difficult because you will get some people that just don't see the point, and they're not necessarily the right people within the business. So it's trying to help them understand what the impact is. And this is something firms can suffer with if it's, well, I've always done it like this. It's having those conversations to really engage all team members and get their points of view as well. They're generally the ones that know where things go wrong. So culture's absolutely key in that collaborative environment again. And if I think a common example is if you talk about a fact find, an advisor will say to you, we don't want to do the fact find, all these hard facts. What we want to talk about is really getting to know the client and understanding that. And essentially that's what data is. You want the data to be working in the background so that you can actually then just work on the soft facts and that relationship with the client. And that's how we work with firms as well. So the services we're there is, for example, on a portal, we work with firms that they've got 100% valuation coverage. Not just the automated ones, everything. So you're not sitting there thinking, if the client looks online at their data, which plans will be correct and which will be wrong? How many headaches is this going to cause me? So it's about getting that underlying information in place for them so they can concentrate on the bits they enjoy.
Interesting. And so two trends that we've seen a lot within our business is, as you mentioned earlier, technology is changing. It's improving. There's better software. There's better systems. There's better ways to kind of approach it. But there's also obviously been the COVID-19 factor as well. Let's be honest, we've all had to change our work practices a little bit as well. So one of the trends we're really seeing is, because technology is better and because, kind of face-to-face got taken off the table and everybody's suddenly working online more, doing more Zoom calls like this and so on, that there's kind of a move towards being more of a virtual advisor, or certainly a semi-virtual kind of practice, less face-to-face, less people in the office, more online, more Zoom and everything else. Are you seeing that particularly from your end? Is that what's happening for you?
Yeah, we definitely are. And I think that's where the technology has to support it. And some of the people on the more legacy sort of in-house systems have struggled to make that move and to make it as quickly. But I think that's also what we've seen where people are involving us more, where the process become key. Again, so you're mitigating that risk. You've got people working. You're not micromanaging, but you can see at a high level where everything is in the business. You know that you're meeting all of your needs. So we've definitely seen a move towards that. I think it's been quite interesting in terms of the online meetings. It's taken away a lot of the fear for people. And again, it's just then, how are they building that in? How are they recording that, advice processes and so on, to make sure it's documented without advisors having to sit there, transcribe. And it's building these new methods of working into actually something that's going to work within the business.
Yeah, and obviously things like, being able to share documents in the cloud and do that securely and so on. I see a huge amount of people looking at that, looking at ways to do that better, because obviously with advisors there's so much paperwork and signing and checking and so on that's required. And do you advise, like, in relation to what I would call the tech stack, as in the different parts of technology that advisors use, do you guys advise on that? Do you say, okay, that one's terrible, you probably want to look at this one, or forget those three, let's just drill down and use this one here? Like, do you have that type of conversation with people as well?
So we don't get into the exact details on that. We work with somebody if they want hands-on support selecting and going through the whole technology structure and stack. We work with someone that will help them through that process. We then link in terms of data migration and in terms of being able to pick up specific elements of the project management or the income side. And then the other thing we do is we have a pre-made pack for firms. So if they don't want the cost of involving someone else, we have a full pack that will run them from beginning to end on going through selecting their new technology. It is rapidly evolving though. I think, to be brutally honest, I like to know what I'm talking about, like to make sure I'm up to date. And because the technology in the market has evolved so fast, it's very difficult to do that. And at some point you have to say, okay, this is where we're going to put our focus so we can do a job well. Yeah. So that's why we sort of moved away from that slightly. It's quite interesting. We're currently working with the first customer in the UK to use the remuneration side on Wealthcraft. So
Right.
it's nice still to get those new situations and really learn a bit more still.
Excellent. Yeah, it's such a fast-moving
Yeah.
sector at the moment, isn't it? And so no, it really is, and it is for everybody, And ironically, I think COVID-19 has kind of accelerated everything because the demand is coming from the end user. Really, they want it more online, don't they? They want to be able to do it remotely, and they want to be able to do it over Zoom or whatever way it is, And that's not just in the UK. That's obviously internationally. It's happening in the US and everywhere else as well. Is what we're seeing. All right. Well, listen, that's fantastic. And I really appreciate it, how much you've been and how open you've been with us today. Is there anything else you think people should think about in relation to sort of growing their practice around processes and systems, or have we covered most of this stage?
No, I think it just depends where you're on in terms of your technology journey. So are you really on a legacy piece of technology, or actually you're at the stage, like you've just said, in terms of communications with clients, integration, bolt-ons. So just looking at where you are as a firm in that. And then just taking stock and working out where do you want to get to, what resources, third-party advice do you need to be able to build that plan and actually implement it to get you where you need to be with hopefully the least headache possible and people using the word data as few times as possible. But I don't think you're ever going to avoid that, unfortunately.
Excellent. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, Sarah, and your firm, where should they go, or who should they email, or how should it work?
So we have a website, you don't even need to say that nowadays, do you? But advisoroutsoursing.com, and advisor is ER. We'll put a link as well on there. And if you go through our website, you'll also find a link. So we'll do a free initial 30-minute conversation with any firm just to understand where they're at and give them a bit of guidance.
Excellent. Listen, thanks, Sarah. I really appreciate you jumping on today, and best of luck now with the growth of your business, okay?
Thanks, Paul. Lovely to talk to you.